China was isolated from the developing civilizations in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India. While there were ways for goods and people to travel between India and China, access to civilizations in the west was blocked by the Himalayas in the southwest, the Pamir and Tian Mountains and the Taklamakan Desert in the west, and the Gobi Desert in the north to northwest. The mountains made overland transport and communication difficult and slow. However, the Yellow and Yangtze rivers facilitated east to west movement. The Shang originated in the Yellow River Valley in the present-day province of Henan. Their control went north to Mongolia, west to the Gansu area, and south to the Yangtze River Valley. The Shang had frequent military campaigns, constantly pushing surrounding nomads back. The capital city varied from time to time. The last and most important one was near modern-day Anyang. Cities were centers of politics and religion. Cities were laid out in a precise grid pattern aligned with the North Polar Star and had gates opening in all four cardinal directions. This orientation of buildings is known as feng shui. The writing system used by the Shang was made of pictograms and phonetic symbols representing the sounds of words. Only the educated elite were able to master this system. However, this system still endures today in China. Shang rulers and aristocrats worshipped their ancestors. Before making a major decision, they would use divination and oracle bones to decide which they should do. Possession of bronze was a sign of authority and nobility. Bronze vessels were used for religious rituals and sacrifices. In the 11th century BC, the last Shang king was defeated by Wu, the ruler of Zhou, a dependent state in the Wei River Valley. The Zhou is the longest-lasting and most revered dynasty in Chinese history, lasting over 800 years. Just as the Semitic people in Mesopotamia had adopted and adapted the Sumerian legacy, the Zhou preserved the essentials of Shang culture. The Zhou used the mandate of heaven to justify their seizing of power from the Shang. Mandate of heaven means the ruler has been chosen by a supreme deity and would rule as long as he was a good leader and good to the people. The Zhou separated religion and government and promoted the development of important philosophical systems. Sacred bronze items from the Shang period became family treasures. During the Zhou period, a sophisticated administrative apparatus developed. The Zhou built capitals in the western part of the kingdom, and all major buildings faced south to keep a harmonious relationship with the terrain. Like the Shang, the Zhou regime was highly decentralized. In 800 BC, the Zhou began to decline and moved to the east near Luoyang. In 600 BC, iron began to replace bronze, which was most likely brought by nomads. The wealth and power of the state were justified by a political philosophy known as legalism. Legalism is a philosophy in which harsh punishments and strict laws are used to make people behave. One aristocrat who became a major philosopher during the Warring States period was Confucius. Confucius was the founder of Confucianism, in which the state is a hierarchy just like a family, with ruler on the top. The basis of Confucianism is filial piety, in which there are 5 relationships: ruler to ruled, husband to wife, father to son, older sibling to younger sibling, and friend to friend. Confucius actually had little influence during his time. His teachings were made popular by his follower, Mengzi. Confucianism would become the core of the educational system for government officials. The Warring States period also saw the rise of Taoism. Laozi, the founder of Taoism, sought to stop the warfare of the Warring States period by urging people to follow the Tao, or path. He encouraged people to accept the world as it is, avoid violence, and avoid unnecessary actions. In Taoism, the only thing that matters is one understanding of the path. Not much is known about women of this time. However, Confucian thought symbolizes a balance of men and women. Only men could conduct rituals and make offerings to ancestors, but women could help maintain the shrines. These differences in male and female activities can be explained by the concept of yin and yang. The male principle of yang represented the sun, active, bright, and shining, while the female principle of yin represented the moon, passive, shade, and reflection. This shows the balance of men and women during this time. In the second half of the 3rd century BC, one of the warring states, the Qin state of the Wei Valley, rapidly conquered its rivals and united the warring states, creating China's first empire. Power soon passed to a new dynasty, the Han, who ruled China for nearly 400 years. Many inventions were produced during the Han era. Blacksmiths produced steel by liquefying iron and pulling it into molds. The steel and cast iron tools they produced were far stronger than iron tools. The crossbow and use of cavalry helped the military repel nomads from the region. Water mills harnessed the power of running water before it was used in Europe. One of the most important inventions was the development of a horse collar that did not restrict the animal's breathing and allowed Chinese horses to carry heavier loads than Europeans. The Chinese also invented paper in the 2nd century BC. China's most important export was silk. Han China suffered through financial problems after fighting along their frontier. This led to their fall, and China entered a period of political fragmentation and economic and cultural regression that would last until the late 6th and early 7th centuries CE. The Western Hemisphere was isolated from the rest of the world for at least 15,000 years. Like the civilizations in the East, the Western civilizations faced environmental challenges and isolation. Over thousands of years, population grew and spread through the hemisphere. The environment ranged from frozen tundra to rainforests and deserts. The most influential early Mesoamerican civilizations was the Olmec, who flourished from 1200 to 400 BC. The center of Olmec civilization was located near the tropical Atlantic coast of Mexico. Original Olmec settlements depended on rich plant diversity and fishing. In 3500 BC, staple crops such as corn, beans, and squash were domesticated. They also grew manioc. Religious and political elites used their prestige and authority to organize the digging of irrigation and drainage canals. The cultural core of the Olmecs was San Lorenzo and also the surrounding villages nearby. Levanta became the most important Olmec center when San Lorenzo was abandoned or destroyed in 900 BC. The last dominant center was Tres Zapotes after Levanta was destroyed around 600 BC. It appears as though each city developed independently to exploit and exchange salt, cocoa, clay, and limestone. The Olmec had large artificial platforms and mounds of packed earth that dominated urban centers and served to frame the collective ritual and political activities that brought the rural population to the cities at special times of the year. They laid cities in alignment with the stars, similar to feng shui in China. Skilled artisans decorated the buildings with carvings and sculptures. They produced crafts like exquisite jade figurines, necklaces, and ceremonial knives. Authority of rulers and their king groups is suggested by a series of colossal carved stone heads. Some are nearly 11 feet high. Organization of labor by the elite actually helped increase food production and create a more diverse diet. The Olmecs were a polytheistic society. Most deities had male and female natures. The Olmecs produced a calendar by closely observing the stars and their movements. The first ball game also originated in Mesoamerica, which was a part of ceremonial life. Geography played an important role in the development of society in the Andes. The diverse environment consisted of a mountainous core, dense tropical jungles, and an arid coastal plain. The earliest urban centers were villages of a few hundred people built along the coastal plain or foothills near the coast. An abundant supply of fish and mollusks provided a dependable source of food. In 2600 BC, Carl and the Supe Valley developed many characteristics viewed as hallmarks of Andean civilization. The Chavin, one of the most impressive societies of South America, inherited many cultural and economic characteristics of Caral. The capital of the Chavin was located at Chavin de Hontar in the eastern range of the Andes, just north of modern-day Lima. The capital was an intersection of trade routes connecting the coast with populous mountain valleys. Maize was introduced through trade and helped increase food supply. They used llamas to move goods through the mountains. The llama was the only domesticated beast of burden in the Americas. The llama provided meat, wool, and labor. The Chavin were polytheistic, but the most potent religious symbol was a jaguar deity. Nearly all buildings were decorated with carvings of serpents, jaguars, and birds. Metallurgy in the Americas first developed in the Andes with silver, gold, and gold alloys. Why they fell is unknown, but evidence suggests warfare in 200 BC disrupted trade and authority.